January 1985, Mumbai, India. The city never sleeps. Even at 3 a.m., the streets pulse with life. Taxi drivers navigate potholed roads. Street vendors prepare for the morning rush. And on the pavements, thousands sleep under the open sky. They are Mumbai's invisible population, the homeless, the pavement dwellers, men, women and children who claim a few square feet of concrete as their only refuge from the world. On this particular night, a man named Prakash Kumar sleeps outside a shuttered shop in Sion. He's 43 years old, a laborer. He sends what little money he earns back to his village in Bihar. Tonight, he will not wake up. Someone is watching. Someone is waiting. Someone is carrying something heavy. When morning comes, other pavement dwellers discover Prakash Kumar's body. His skull has been completely crushed. The weapon? A large stone, weighing at least 20 kilograms. There are no witnesses. No screams were heard. No struggle, just a man, a stone, and death in the darkness. This is not the first such murder in Mumbai. It will not be the last. Welcome to DarkMorph Tales. I'm your host, and today we're investigating one of India's most baffling unsolved cases. A serial killer who operated for 4 years across 2 cities, 1,500 kilometers apart. A killer who targeted society's most vulnerable. A killer who was never caught, never identified, never stopped. This is the story of the Stoneman. Mumbai in the 1980s was a city of stark contrasts. Skyscrapers rose above sprawling slums. Wealth and poverty existed side by side, often separated by just a single street. The homeless population was estimated at over 100,000 people. They slept on railway platforms, under bridges, outside temples and shops. They were everywhere and nowhere, visible to the eye but invisible to society. The first murder occurred in January 1985. The victim was a male pavement dweller in Sion area. His skull was crushed with a large stone while he slept. Police initially treated it as an isolated incident, perhaps a dispute between homeless individuals, perhaps a robbery gone wrong. The case was noted, filed, and largely forgotten. But then it happened again. February 1985. Another homeless man, another crushed skull, another stone. March 1985. A third victim, April 1985. A fourth. The Mumbai police began to notice a pattern. All victims were pavement dwellers. All were killed while sleeping. All died from massive head trauma caused by a heavy stone. The killer struck between midnight and 4 a.m. There were never any witnesses. The victims never had time to scream or struggle. The method was as brutal as it was efficient. The killer would approach a sleeping person, lift a stone weighing 15 to 25 kilograms, and bring it down with tremendous force onto the victim's head. The first blow was usually fatal, but the killer often struck multiple times, completely crushing the skull. Senior Inspector Vijay Salaskar was assigned to lead the investigation. He was one of Mumbai's most experienced officers, but this case baffled him. In his report, he wrote, "The killer leaves no fingerprints, no footprints, no trace evidence. He selects victims who are alone, isolated from other pavement dwellers. He moves silently, he strikes quickly, and he vanishes into the night." Between January 1985 and August 1988, 12 people were murdered in Mumbai using this exact method. The victims included 10 men and 2 women. Ages ranged from 30 to 60 years old. All were homeless. The pattern was so distinctive that police knew they were dealing with a serial killer, but knowing that didn't help them catch him. The media began reporting on the murders. Headlines screamed about a monster stalking Mumbai streets. The homeless population lived in terror. Many stopped sleeping alone. They formed groups, taking turns keeping watch through the night. But the murders continued. The killer seemed to have intimate knowledge of Mumbai's streets. He knew where isolated individuals slept. He knew the police patrol patterns. He knew how to avoid detection. Theories multiplied. Was the killer homeless himself, blending in with his victims? Was he someone with a grudge against the poor? Was it a ritual killing? Some suggested the murders had religious or occult significance. Police investigated hundreds of suspects. They interrogated known violent offenders. They watched pavement dweller communities. They set up surveillance. They even used decoy officers posing as homeless people. Nothing worked. Then, in August 1988, the murders stopped. Completely. Weeks passed, then months. No more crushed skulls, no more stones. The Stoneman had vanished. Police theorized that the killer had died, perhaps been arrested for an unrelated crime, perhaps moved to another city, or perhaps simply stopped. By mid-1989, the case was effectively closed. Unsolved, 12 victims, 0 arrests. The Mumbai police believed it was over. They were wrong. From August 1988 to December 1989, not a single Stoneman murder occurred in Mumbai. 16 months of silence. During this period, police reviewed the case files repeatedly. They looked for any detail they might have missed, any connection between the victims beyond their homelessness, any clue to the killer's identity. They found nothing. The 12 victims had no connections to each other. They came from different parts of India. They had different backgrounds. Some were alcoholics. Some were mentally ill. Some were simply desperately poor. The only thing they shared was their vulnerability. Forensic analysis of the stones used in the murders revealed nothing unusual. They were ordinary stones, the kind found anywhere in the city. Some appeared to have been taken from construction sites, others from riverbeds. There were no fingerprints on any of them. The police consulted with psychologists and criminologists. They developed a profile of the killer. The profile stated male, likely between 25 and 45 years old, physically strong, able to lift and wield heavy stones, possibly works as a laborer or in construction, explaining both his strength and access to stones, has significant knowledge of Mumbai's streets and pavement dweller populations, may have a personal grudge against homeless individuals, or may view them as easy targets for violent fantasies, operates alone, highly organized and controlled, able to suppress violent urges for extended periods, suggesting he is not driven purely by psychotic delusion. But a profile without a suspect is just words on paper. As 1989 drew to a close, the Mumbai police accepted the reality. The Stoneman case was cold. The killer, whoever he was, had gotten away with 12 murders. 1,500 kilometers to the east, in the city of Kolkata, police had no reason to pay attention to Mumbai's unsolved murders. That was about to change. January 1989, Kolkata, West Bengal. Kolkata is different from Mumbai. The pace is slower. The streets are narrower. The poverty, if anything, is more visible. And like Mumbai, Kolkata has a massive homeless population. On January 15, 1989, a homeless man named Shankar Prasad was found dead on Rashbihari Avenue. His head had been crushed with a large stone. Police initially treated it as a one-off incident. Violent crimes against homeless people were, tragically, not uncommon. But then it happened again. January 28th. Another homeless victim. Another crushed skull. Another stone. February 10th. A third murder. February 24th. A fourth. The Kolkata police began to realize they had a serial killer. Senior officers reviewed the case files. The method was distinctive. The victims were all pavement dwellers. The murders occurred at night. A large stone was the weapon. Then someone made a connection. A young inspector named Rajiv Sharma had recently transferred from Mumbai. He had heard about the Stoneman murders there. When he saw the Kolkata case files, he immediately recognized the similarities. He told his superior, "Sir, the method is identical, down to the smallest details. The victim profile, the timing, the weapon, everything matches the Mumbai Stoneman murders." The Kolkata police contacted their Mumbai counterparts. They compared notes. The conclusion was inescapable. The Stoneman had moved. The realization sent shockwaves through both police departments. If the same killer was now operating in Kolkata, it meant he was mobile, organized, and extremely dangerous. The media discovered the connection. English-language newspapers gave the killer his name. The Stoneman, the name stuck. Headlines blared across India. Stoneman terror grips Kolkata. Serial killer moves cities. Police helpless against shadow killer. The murders continued with horrifying regularity. March 1989, 2 more victims. April 1989, 3 victims. May 1989, 2 victims. By June 1989, 13 people had been murdered in Kolkata in just 6 months. The city's homeless population was in a state of panic. Pavement dwellers changed their behavior dramatically. Instead of sleeping alone or in small groups, they formed large clusters of 20 or more people. They designated guards to stay awake in shifts. Some stopped sleeping on the streets entirely, seeking refuge in temples or railway stations. The police response was massive. Hundreds of officers were deployed to patrol areas where pavement dwellers congregated. Plainclothes detectives mingled with homeless populations. Surveillance cameras were set up at key locations. But the Stoneman was careful. He adapted to the increased security. He began targeting isolated individuals who, for whatever reason, couldn't or wouldn't join the larger protective groups. The mentally ill, the severely alcoholic, those too sick to move. The murders became a cat and mouse game. Police would increase patrols in one area, and the Stoneman would strike somewhere else. They would focus on protecting larger pavement dweller communities, and he would find isolated victims. Witnesses began to come forward, or rather, people claimed to have seen something. Most accounts were unreliable, influenced by fear and imagination, but there were a few consistent descriptions. Several people reported seeing a lone figure moving through the streets late at night, carrying something heavy, always male, always alone. Some said he wore dark clothing. Others said he wore the clothes of a laborer. One witness claimed he wore a hood or cloth wrapped around his face, but these sightings never led to an arrest. By the time police arrived, the figure was gone. The profile was updated. The killer was clearly comfortable in both Mumbai and Kolkata. He might have worked in both cities. He might have family connections to both places. He was resourceful enough to blend in, smart enough to evade police, and he was patient. Then, as suddenly as they had started, the Kolkata murders stopped. July 1989, no murders. August 1989, no murders. September 1989, no murders. By October, police began to hope it was over. Perhaps the killer had moved again. Perhaps he had died. Perhaps he had been arrested for an unrelated crime. But there were no records of anyone matching the profile being arrested or dying in either Mumbai or Kolkata. The Stoneman had simply disappeared. 26 murders, 2 cities, 4 years, and not a single arrest. The Stoneman case remains one of India's most baffling unsolved mysteries. Over the decades since the murders stopped, investigators, journalists, and amateur sleuths have proposed numerous theories. Theory 1. It was the same killer operating in both cities. This is the most widely accepted theory. The method was too distinctive, too identical to be a coincidence. The timing fits perfectly. Mumbai murders stop in August 1988. Kolkata murders begin in January 1989. The gap could represent the time it took for the killer to relocate. But this raises questions. Why did he move? Was he about to be caught in Mumbai? Did he have a job that transferred him to Kolkata? Or was the movement itself part of his pattern? Would he have continued moving from city to city if he hadn't stopped? Theory 2. There were multiple killers. Some investigators believe the Mumbai and Kolkata murders were committed by different people. Perhaps a copycat who read about the Mumbai murders and decided to replicate them. This would explain some minor variations in the crime scenes. But the similarities are overwhelming, and India's homeless population spans many cities. If copycats were involved, why didn't similar murders occur elsewhere? Theory 3. The murders had religious or ritual significance. This theory emerged from the unusual nature of the crimes, the use of stones as weapons, the targeting of marginalized people. Some speculated the killer believed he was performing a ritual, perhaps related to a tantric practice or a twisted interpretation of religious text. But forensic psychiatrists largely dismiss this theory. The murders showed too much pragmatism. The killer was careful about avoiding detection. He adapted his methods when security increased. This suggests criminal intent, not religious delusion. Theory 4. The killer died or was imprisoned. The most straightforward explanation for why the murders stopped is that the killer could no longer commit them. Perhaps he died in an accident. Perhaps he was arrested for a different crime and is currently in prison. His connection to the Stoneman murders unknown. Police have investigated this possibility. They've reviewed arrest and death records from 1989 onward, looking for individuals matching the profile. But India's criminal justice records from that era are incomplete. It's possible the Stoneman is in prison or was in prison and no one made the connection. Theory 5. The killer simply stopped. This is the most disturbing possibility, that the Stoneman is still out there, still alive. But for reasons known only to him, he decided to stop killing. Serial killers rarely stop voluntarily, but it does happen. Some age out of their violent phase. Some find other outlets. Some are scared by close calls with police. If this theory is correct, the Stoneman could be anyone. A laborer, a shopkeeper, a grandfather, living an ordinary life, his terrible secret buried in the past. In 2009, a Hindi film called The Stoneman Murders was released. It was a fictionalized version of the case. In the film, the killings are revealed to be ritual murders connected to a religious cult. But this is fiction. The real Stoneman case remains unsolved. The families of the 26 victims never got justice. Most of them probably never even learned their loved ones were murdered. When you're homeless in India, you're disconnected from family, from society, from the systems that might otherwise track your fate. The victims died as they had lived. Alone, invisible, forgotten. Who was the Stoneman? We don't know. Will we ever know? Probably not. But somewhere in India, someone knows the truth. Maybe it's the killer himself, carrying the weight of 26 lives. Maybe it's a family member who noticed unexplained absences, strange behavior, blood on clothes. Or maybe the secret died with him, buried as surely as his victims. This has been DarkMorph Tales. I'm your host, bringing you true crime and horror from across Asia. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review. It helps other listeners discover the show. Next week, we travel to Uzbekistan and investigate the children of Ajina, armed women who vanished into thin air, and the demonic folklore that may explain their disappearance. Remember, the darkness is all around us. Sometimes it wears a human face. Until next time, stay safe.